my intro.
Oh, thanks for that. But there's lots of people helping.
Okay, so I think, yeah, we are ready to start. Yeah, okay, so hello everyone, welcome to PMF Connect. For those of you who are just joining now, my name is Agnes from Product Management Festival, and today we have here Anoop from Netflix, who is going to talk about the billing platforms and billing platforms and the challenges around that today. But before we do that, I'm just going to give a very quick introduction on to what is Product Management Festival. For those of you who this is the first time you're joining such a session. So we are one of the world's largest community for product leaders. For about 7 years now, we are bringing together product managers from all over the world. We do various activities, and then our main goal is to amplify the impact of product management globally. Together, we make one big community. We run, thanks to our local ambassadors, meetups all around the globe. They are after work meetups. They are called the PM nights. We also run the yearly conferences once a year in Zurich, the Europe edition, and once a year in APAC in June, around June, in Singapore, which unfortunately this year, due to the current circumstances, had to be postponed. And then we are also running executive circles. These are for leaders, product leaders, like heads of product, CPOs, also all around the globe. And together with INSEAD, we run the Product Management Executive Program. And what Timo has already mentioned, there is a product management report, a trends and benchmark report, which we every year publish. And then that contains really great insights on people, processes, how people work in their organizations, and what is the salary level, from the salary, how open people are for new jobs, what is their structure, what are the prioritization models, methods they are using. So all these cool insights, all about product management. So if you go to the productmanagementfestival.com, you can download this report for free. It's a free report. And then, as I mentioned, we run the yearly events, and that we actually decided this year, due to the current circumstances, that we go hybrid. So we are actually organizing in November, on 11th and 12th November, the first hybrid version of PMF Europe, which basically, if you can join us in person, then you're very welcome to join us. For example, in Switzerland, we don't have currently any limitations for events. We just have to wear masks and then really keep to the safety and health and safety regulations, and otherwise we can get together. But for those who cannot travel to Zurich for the conference, you can join online. If you're interested in getting online, just get on the website and get your ticket. Everything will be streamed, even the sessions that are happening face-to-face, they will be also streamed, so you will not be missing anything out. Today, we have, as I mentioned, Anoop from Netflix, and he is going to share with us how to build a scalable billing platform. Maybe a few words about Anoop. He's currently working as lead finance technology at Netflix. He's based in Singapore. His main focus is on building enterprise products focused on corporate finance. Previously, he has worked at Booking.com, and then previous that at Uber. But I let him introduce himself and say a bit more about himself, also giving you a bit more context. So Anoop, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Agnes, for the quick introduction. And thank you, everyone, for joining me today. It's an honor to be here at PMF Connect session and sharing my experiences and learnings with all of you. A little bit more about myself. I'm originally from India, currently based in Singapore. I'm a computer science engineer by education. I have worked for companies like Uber, Booking.com, Oracle, and most recently Netflix. At Uber, I built a payment disbursement platform for vendor operations. That platform is currently being used in more than 60 countries. We automated payment disbursement for about 150 plus bank accounts. After Uber, I joined Booking.com, where I was building a billing platform for Booking.com, and not only accommodation business, but all other businesses wherein Booking.com is going to grow. And most recently at Netflix, I'm leading finance and tax technology for APAC and international. All right, so in today, in next 30 minutes, we will try to discuss on how to build a billing platform for hypergrowth companies. We'll first start with understanding what are the certain problems and challenges which we get while scaling up a product globally. And then we'll also discuss what are the challenges when you try to scale a billing platform globally in any company. We'll also touch base on what's the major difference between monolith and microservices architecture. We will not go too deep into technicalities of it, but the reason I want to touch base on monolithic and microservices architecture is that it is very important for us to make a judgment call before we start making any platform or service which can scale globally, whether we want to go with a monolith or microservices approach. And in the end, we'll try to find out how to harmonize this billing platform with your complete product line. So yeah, let's get started. All right, so we set up the stage, and these are things which we are going to discuss about. Problems while scaling. Before we start discussing about what are the problems before we while scaling, I want you to imagine that you're going to build a new product for your company, or you want to add a new product to an existing set of products which you have in your company, or you're going to build a marketplace. How are you going to think about billing and invoicing part of the product? How are you going to maximize the profitability, collect more revenue? How are you going to handle that? And if you have plans to launch the product globally, how will you make sure that the invoicing experience, the billing experience, is seamless across the globe? So we'll try to find out those answers, definitely. And the overall objective of today's session is that I want to encourage all the PMs to start thinking about billing, invoicing these problems very early in the designing phase of the product itself, probably starting of the ideation itself, because as you know, revenue is like the heart of the product. If you are not able to get this revenue, and if we do not have more customers, we don't have more revenue, then the product might die. So it's a very important aspect of product development life cycle, and it's always very helpful for PMs if they plan it well in advance. It helps them when they are going to launch the product. All right, so let's get started on problems while scaling. So think about a ride-hailing product. Think about Uber launching its services in US. It was very simple. In US, San Francisco, most of the people back then had mobile phone, a good internet connection, a credit card. They pushed the button, got the ride, and at the end of the ride, they didn't have to deal with cash or change. Their credit card was deducted as per the fare, driver was paid, everything was so smooth, everything was good. But think about launching Uber in developing economies, countries like India, Thailand, Cambodia, or if you think about Africa, where you forget about credit card, people do not even have the bank accounts. So how do you ensure that the product, the feature, the services which are going to launch in those countries, in those economies, are going to scale well and are able to serve the customers? So if you think about building any product in that way, you can, and the same way we will have the similar problem when we are going to scale the billing product. think about generating an invoice for the US partner, one of your US partners for any product. It's straightforward. The language has to be English. You can just email it to them. Everybody has an email. There are simplified taxes all across the states. Even if you talk about Europe, it's a pretty simplified taxes. Well, there are complexity around languages, but still, if your product can handle localization, it's all right. But when you come to these economies like APAC or Africa, wherein first of all, taxes are complicated. Second of all, uh, we do not speak the same language. The whole world does not speak English. And if you really want to scale product to masses, you need to speak their language, which means that you need to generate invoices in their language. So what happens is that these are certain challenges which you're going to get when you're going to scale the billing product. This is just one flavor of it. And it's not only about that. A nature of product and services also changes. So remember when any company, whether it's Uber or Airbnb, when they were scaling, the government were having tough time to figure out whether they are a technology company or they are a ride hailing or accommodation service provider. So think about Airbnb. They have always been advertised themselves as they are the technology company, and it's like a marketplace wherein anybody who has a house, a spare room, they can post their listing, and then somebody who's traveling in that city, they can book it. It's all right. Airbnb gets their cut from the partner. They facilitate their payment. It's a technology company, but for some government, it might feel like that Airbnb is kind of liable of the overall thing, and they might categorize them as the accommodation company. Same goes for Uber as well, wherein there have been a lot of debates in many countries that whether it's a ride-hailing company or a technology company. The overall objective of giving you this context is that the taxes changes. The tax changes when your nature of service changes. So if you think about Singapore, just a hypothetical scenario, if it's a technology service, you might pay a 7% of tax. But if it's a ride-hailing service, you might pay 10% of tax, and then there could be other charges as well. So these are certain flavors which you're gonna get when you are going to scale your billing product. All right. So before we start thinking about what are the approach of building a billing product, or whether you're building or buying, it depends on you. But you need to know what are features which has to be there in your billing platform when you're going to if you're going to scale your business. So before going into that, I want to really touch base with monolith versus microservices platform. So what is the microservices? What are the monolith platform? Let's first talk about monolith platform. So monolith platform, if you have any product or service, it has a database layer, an application layer, a presentation layer, and it will have an API layer. So all these four modules are bundled together in one, and they are made up, and they are called as monolith code bases. There are many advantages of having monolith code base. It's simple, easy to deploy. It's just one code base, easy to test as well. And you can run multiple copies of one monolith platform, and easy to scale as well. But when it comes to the disadvantages of monolith platform, then even though you can scale, but there's a limit to scaling a monolith platform. And the second thing is, if you want to add a new feature, then and if you're making any changes to your monolith code base, you need to know everything about your monolith code base before you can make the changes to it. Whereas on the other hand, if you look at microservices, so think about microservices as multiple monolith code bases, which are developed independently, maintained independently, but work together very closely to serve a service or a product. So when you're thinking about building a billing platform, and you're thinking about building a billing platform for a business which has multiple products on their platform, something like a super app which has different products and services like rides, eats, payment, local attractions, and other services, then microservices will come very handy. And if you're thinking about just if you have a product or a service which has just one line of business, then I guess the monolith platform will come as handy. There is always a debate that whether to go with monolith or microservices platform. I don't think as a product manager we need to make that decision, but it's always good to have an opinion as a product manager, and so that you're able to also contribute to that discussion whether we should go with a monolith platform or a microservices platform, because you know of your future plans and what is needed for your product to scale. On a side note, there are multiple companies which successfully started as a monolith platform. They launched their product, scaled it well, and then later refactored into microservices platform. You can read story about Gojek. Gojek is a ride-hailing company here in Southeast Asia. So they started with a monolith, and now they have refactored into microservices. So think about Gojek. It's a super app. It has got everything, and if you're making any changes to their food business, if you're making an update to the food business only, then all other services are also down. Whereas if it had been a microservices platform, then you can just make changes to one service and everything else is running. And that's why microservices has advantages over monolith. And well, it's a relative statement. All right. So some of my learnings from deploying applications and services on the microservices platform, it's definitely faster to fix, flexible deployment, faster to develop. It's elastic and it's simple. The reason why elastic is that you can scale it to any level. If there are you suddenly see that there are multiple hits on your service, and you have set up a threshold, you can always go ahead and increase that. So all those things are they come pretty handy in microservices architecture. All right, so let's get into what would be the good approach to build a billing platform. And the reason why I have mentioned here a product agnostic billing platform is that we are going to, we are thinking about building a billing platform which does not care about which product or service it has to create invoice or generate billing. It can be an accommodation product. It can be, a flight product. It can be shopping. It can be a local attraction or movie ticket. So all of these are going to be handled by just one service, which is something like a Superman, metaphorically, and will generate the invoices for all these products for both the customers and your partners. Now think about, let's take an example of Booking.com itself. So Booking.com has been historically an accommodation company, but in last couple of years, they have been experimenting a lot on new businesses. A lot of add-ons on the accommodation that, okay, if you book a hotel, let's say somewhere in Spain, do you want to book the local attractions ticket? Do you want to book something called in-stay services? Do you want a champagne, or do you want a late checkout? And also they're like they were also expanding their business on the attraction side and launched flights and stuff. So all these they had like multiple product lines, and when it comes to billing, then if you have one monolith code base for billing, which can just generate invoices for one kind of business, then it will be a big failure. And that's why when we are thinking about building a billing platform, it should be in a way that it can cater to all the product services and business lines. Um, I would like to argue here that monolith architecture will not be suitable for billing platform. But as I said in the beginning, that if you have just one kind of service, take an example of Netflix. Netflix has just one service, and it's a subscription-based service. There's definitely tiers that you can get a 1 screen, 2 screen, or 4 screen, but in the end, it's just one service. So even if you go with a monolithic architecture, it will be all right. So before you start thinking about building a billing product, you need to ask a couple of questions to yourself. And this goes down to the nature of product which you are building. So whether you are going to whether you want a monthly billing for your customers, or, or is there a subscription billing in place, or there's something as pay as you go. Google uses a lot of pay as you go model for billing, or it's a metered billing. That means whatever you use, you pay for that. So when we are thinking about building a billing platform, so first of all, I sanctum sanctorum of it is the main billing service, which will basically listen to all these products which you are seeing over here, that when to generate a billing event. And it has to be real time, uh, because we are talking about a ride hailing service wherein a customer books an Uber, books a Grab, and then they finish their ride, and at least within like 30 minutes, they need an invoice. That means it has to be real time. Other than that, if you uh, initially we spoke about taxes, so you also need a tax service. You also need a localization service which can translate these invoices in the local languages. So if you think about it, we are talking about multiple small services on one platform, which can be developed independently, maintained independently, but they are going to work very closely to generate the billing event or generate the invoice. There are recently there have been a lot of new compliance and regulatory requirements which are coming in by the emergence of gig economy. The governments are getting really smart. They want to basically have a full control on all the transactions which is happening in any country. Just to give you an example, from 1st of October in India, they have launched something called e-invoicing, which means that if you're generating any invoice for your business partner, and your overall revenue for your company is more than $68 million, then you need to first report that invoice to Indian government before you send it to your business partner. So think about all these cases, and then think about if you have a marketplace wherein you have both sellers and buyers. If you have an e-commerce site wherein you invite sellers to list their products and services, and then buyer comes and buy it. In that case, because you are just a platform, you are not liable to generate invoices. And if a seller wants to generate an invoice because it becomes a compliance issue, and if they have to do it on their own, they might just offboard them from the platform itself. So when we are thinking about building a billing platform, compliance also plays a very, very important role, and giving that ability to generate invoices for the sellers to their buyers will be a great USP for your marketplace. I know we are going through a tough time during COVID-19, and a lot of companies are trying to be afloat. They're providing a lot of discounts, free trials and stuff. Then this is also one of the use cases to think about before we start building the platform. How do we ensure that the billing platform has a discount as well? As I said, when you think about overall billing, it takes a huge effort, and it's okay to to buy versus build if you do not have the resources or time to spend on the billing platform. But as I said in the beginning, it's very important to understand what features do you need from a billing product before you make your decision. So what are the certain learnings which I got when I built a billing platform when I was building billing platform at Booking.com is that if you go with the microservices architecture, then it's definitely plug and play. You can onboard any product, and if you have all those microservices in place, you can generate invoices. It is event based, which means that you keep listening to the billable events. There'll be a tight integration with the order system. Modularized architecture. I explained about having if you have to update one service, you can update with that one service, and rest everything else can go on. Internationalization, very important piece. It has to be local. All the compliance requirement, regulatory requirement should be met, and of course it has to be real time. All right. Now let's look at how do you ensure that this billing platform works very closely with your main product. How do you harmonize it? So first of all, if you have billing product, a good billing product, you can get a peek into your revenue numbers. You can predict profitability. You can project how much money you're going to make in the next couple of years. What is the financial health of your product? And of course, understanding about growth, churn, and retention. Other than that, there are a lot of financial reports which are based on your billing numbers. So if you have a very strong billing platform or product in place which is supporting your product's growth, it becomes easier to report those numbers, whether it's for CFO or for your shareholders or even for the public companies. Um, there was a study done on the churn, but the use case which we spoke about, wherein one seller is on a marketplace, and if they do not get proper support, it's all about the overall experience. It's not only about that they are able to sell their goods or sell their items on your marketplace. It's also about how are you going to support them to project their revenue, to understand their profitability. It all comes into that picture. And if your billing platform has those capabilities, it's going to help. It's going to help you scale your product. The other interesting thing which I came across is that if you have a subscription business model, then about 40% churn in subscription business are involuntary. And the reason and how it happens is that consider I have a subscription of Netflix, and every month Netflix deducts from my credit card. All good. I enjoy the content. But what happens if my credit card expires? So if my credit card expires for 1 month, they'll stop my service, and in that 1 month period, if I've gone out and started looking at other options, because I'm not happy that Netflix did not inform me that hey, my credit card was expiring, I might just go to Apple TV or Prime Video. So in the end, you might lose a customer just because you are not able to let them know that hey, your credit card is expiring. So when we are thinking about building a billing platform, can we also think about these edge case scenarios, which is going to help us retain our users, decrease churn, and of course increase the overall growth. So this brings us to my last slide, which is my learning from all these years, whether it was building a product or a platform or working on different finance applications. What I've learned is that if you start early, you have a lot of time. As in, you can always adjust the page which is half written rather than writing a new page. So start early and have a head and always have a head start when you're launching your product. Fail fast. I would say fail as much as you can, and do not hesitate to experiment. Learn from your failure and move forward, and then keep it distributed, keep it live. I know I'm a little bit biased about having microservices architecture, but still, if you have your services distributed, then it's definitely gonna help you to scale your product. And with that, yeah, thank you for your time, and I guess we can open up the floor for question and answer.
Thank you, Anoop. Thank you very much. We already have, it's been very, very interesting. I have to be honest, I didn't know much about this field, so it has been very interesting for me. And then I've seen that not everyone amongst our participants were aware about the differences between micro and monolith. So it's, I think it's been very helpful. Now we are waiting for the questions, and while we already have a question from David Eastland. So usually what I do at the end of every PMF Connect session, that I give the place for people to unmute themselves and then ask the questions, also giving more context, because at the end of the day, it's not just about knowledge sharing, but it's also about networking. So this is the chance to have a 2-way or 28-way discussion. So I call David if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question yourself. Okay.
Aha, sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. Did you find me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Thanks. Great presentation. Had a question for you though. Full disclosure, I work in the billing area at SAP. So we have our own billing product that's pretty widely deployed in a variety of hyperscale environments, very large environments. So everything you said resonated with me. I guess the one thing I wanted to ask you was, how do you view build versus buy in the billing space today with players like Zora and SAP and Oracle and others that offer kind of more off-the-shelf, both microservice-based and monolith type opportunities for implementation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to me, if I have to decide on build versus buy for these billing products, I would first like to understand my product better, as in what are my expectations from a billing solution. And it's end of the day, it's not only about getting the invoice generated and send it to the partners or customers. It's also about having a tight integration to the downstream system. So for me, if I have to evaluate any product, I'm going to first focus on the upstream challenges, as in how tightly I can integrate with my product, how easy it is to add new features, how easy it is to customize it as per our need. And then the next part, which I would probably need some help from my finance folks as well, is that how can it tightly integrate with my ERP system, with my reporting system? Is there a way that I can integrate with Tableau to generate some actionable insights? Or is there a way I can build a direct integration with my ERP, whether I'm running an Oracle, SAP, or any other run-of-the-mill ERP solution? So I would probably look at these two perspectives, upstream and downstream, and then make a decision call which one to use and choose.
Thank you.
We are waiting. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anoop. It was an interesting presentation. I'm Rolf. I'm currently starting a platform company, which hopefully will hyperscale somewhere in a couple of years.
Awesome.
Do you have any idea how I could do billing right from the get-go, and maybe even cheaply?
Absolutely. I think if you start looking at, as I said in my presentation as well, when you think about building a billing platform, it's definitely a huge investment. And if you're starting small, then I think instead of what I would do is that I would put my energies on getting the product right, and probably get some help on billing from outside. So it again comes down to build versus buy decision. So if we have come down to buy decision, then definitely we have markets full of bigger players like David mentioned. It's SAP, Zora, Oracle. All of these companies have very exhaustive billing solution, but it's not an advertisement. I do not endorse any of the billing companies, but there's an open source platform called Kill Bill, and when we were building billing platform at Booking.com, then we actually got a lot of inspiration from Kill Bill platform. It's an open source billing software. I think you can just take a look at that, and they're pretty exhaustive too, and I don't think it's very expensive. So take a look at that, and and be ready to build your own small services as well. As in, if you think about, if you do not want to go ahead with the bigger player with the with a multi-year contract, probably start something with small. And to complement that service, you can always spin off small services, and that way, if you go with that hybrid approach, it will be better for you to have the billing. And as I said, it is very important to get the billing right from the very beginning.
Yeah, I can imagine.
This is the thing which is gonna get you revenue. This is the thing which is gonna make your investors happy when they see the right numbers on your balance sheet. P&L.
Will make me happy too. Okay, thanks a lot, Anoop. Great tip. Thanks.
Hey, Damien, you asked a question. Feel free to unmute yourself and.
Sorry, hi. Hey, Anoop. So I had a question, which was, how do you handle basically failed or reverted transactions with an event-based system? Yeah.
All right, I think that's a great question, and yeah, we had a similar use case when we were also building the billing platform. So I don't want to get into the more implementation details around it, but if we have to handle the failed or reverted transactions in an event-based system, is that if we have the different I would say versions of the order. So the first version of the order is that, okay, somebody tried to book a ticket for a movie, and then it was success, but after that we found out that, okay, the payment has failed. Okay, so if we have versioning in our order system, which can update or add a new line to our order system for each and every status of our order, that way we can figure out the failed or reverted transaction, and then do not build that particular event. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, cool. So just a quick follow-up to that, because I didn't see anyone else post the question, but I wanted to ask, like, how do you deal with situations of race conditions in billing and pricing, especially within a microservice architecture, where other elements may cause pricing to change, and then how do you resolve those things, apart from versioning, I guess? Yeah.
Apart from versioning, so sorry, I didn't hear that well. Do you mind repeating?
Yeah, sorry. No, so apart from versioning, using versioning to handle these sort of errors, how do you deal with race conditions just simply within a microservice architecture? Like generally speaking, if multiple services are also providing elements to update pricing, if one of those services fails, how do you resolve that?
Okay, so your question is that what happens if one of these services fails, and then how do we generate how do we basically complete the operation? Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, of course. So what we did, we tried a retry mechanism, and that's how we tried doing it. And of course, there are multiple ways we can look at how do we ensure that all our services are up, and if there are any services which are reaching threshold, which might make them go down, then take corrective action. But for us, it was mostly retries which worked.
All right, cool. Thank you very much for your answer. I appreciate it.
We're open for more questions. If you want to unmute yourself directly to ask the question, feel free to. If there is no one, then I will ask my question while we wait. And then feel free to write your question in the chat, and then we can call you out, and then you can unmute yourself. Or if you don't want to be talking, that's also possible. So if you just want to write your question in the chat and then not be talking with Anoop directly, then that's okay too. So my question is kind of related to what Rolf, but more in the startup area and field, and then recurring payments. And actually, I'm coming from the more practical point of view, as in it's decided that we're going to go with a billing platform. In our case, it's not PMF related, it's another company that I'm working for. It's ChargeBee. For whatever reason, we decided. And then this decision has been done on the tech side. What is, I guess the question is, what is the most important, in your view, criteria that then we should align the teams by? Because their market team has their own requirements, the tech team have their own requirements, they all don't really talk to each other. What would be, where should we start in kind of aligning, and then aligning priorities, aligning requirements? What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess one of the learnings which I shared with you in my last slide is that starting early and having a open communication and open up multiple communication lines to different channels, it helps. And I have been part of bigger launches of new product at Booking.com and other companies, wherein from not from the day one, but from the time when they start thinking about designing the product, they also start thinking about how are we going to monetize it, and that's a time when we also start thinking about how are we going to bill it, whether we'll use our existing billing platform, whether the mechanism which we are thinking in that product is going to be handled by our billing platform or not, and if it's not, then of course a billing product team has enough time to ensure that by the time the product is launched, that particular feature is also up and running. So as I said, that for me, billing is something which should act as a support function to main product, because and also help them in every way so that they can launch the product on time. There should not be any problems due to compliance or regulatory issues, because ultimately it's about transacting the money, and if we get that right, I think yeah, the product can be scaled better.
What can you do when you retrospectively you haven't thought about the billing platform when you build a product, when you design the product, when you design the pricing, you design like everything around it, and you put it on market? What can you do then?
And if you do not think about billing at the very beginning, so a lot of countries have this rule. I guess it's pretty standard in Europe. Is that once you have provided any service to a business partner or a customer, you have 30 days to give them an invoice. That's a law in most of the countries. So I think if you have not thought about anything before launching the product, then you at least have that 30 days of lead time before you spit out your first invoice. But I guess it's always a good practice to start early, and in that scenario, if I haven't thought about anything about it and I do not have any billing infrastructure to support the product's billing internally, then I'll probably go ahead with the buy decision and buy something quick and yeah, get the billing right.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe also Timo speaking here, another question on billing decision making. So
Yeah.
in your opinion, who should make the final decision about the billing approach and maybe even the billing platform? Is it more a finance related decision, or is it more someone in R&D or a product manager, or who should own the decision?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Timo, and there is always a tussle between finance and product, that who should actually own this, because the billing it's kind of sits right in between the product and the finance. This is not totally finance, because we are just talking about generating the invoice and then sending numbers to downstream finance. And when we are talking about product, it's not product, because you're not building something for your customer unless you are Stripe, wherein you are building billing products. So, in my opinion, it should be under product and not finance, because this is very much closely related to a product growth. And as much as I agree and understand that it is important for finance, it is important that whatever the practices which we are applying in our billing and the way we are doing billing has to be vetted by finance. But in my opinion, the overall build has to be taken over by the product people. So something like I won't say in an ideal word, but in a more practical way, if a product team can build a billing platform, getting some advice and guidance from finance, I think that's the best thing which can happen, and that's what we did at Booking. The overall billing org was part of product organization, but we always had a very, very close communication with our finance folks.
Thanks. Very good.
All right. I can
have
see
a question from Bastian. If you want to unmute yourself, yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm interested in if you're talking about the billing platforms you have been using with Booking.com and Netflix, is the bookkeeping part of the billing platform you're talking about, or did you use separate bookkeeping platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question. So as I said, when we are talking about billing, it's only about generating the invoices for the products. When it comes to bookkeeping, it's a whole different ballgame. So at both the companies, the billing is just a standalone product which just spits out the invoices. And for bookkeeping, Booking.com we use SAP, and Netflix we are using something called Workday for bookkeeping and all the financial reporting.
And for the integration, you have just used the standard interfaces. Have they been offering by the billing system, or did you need to do the integration yourself?
Well, it depends on which system are you integrating with, and what are the options in your downstream system, right? So if you have built a services, a microservice, using microservices, you have built your billing platform, then you can push the data in many different ways. It is totally depends on how advanced your downstream system is. If you are using SAP and SAP accepts the API connection, you can just use APIs and push the data from billing to your ERP system, whether it's SAP or Oracle. It completely depends on your downstream system.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think now it's actually, I would call for the last chance to ask the questions. If you still have more questions, maybe just some housekeeping in terms of we will be sending out in the follow-up email the recording of the session. And if Anoop accepts, then we will be attaching the slides in PDF as well, as clues for reminders for what was discussed and what was mentioned. And otherwise, next week we are back on with another session that will be by Dora, who is actually an ambassador. And we will be soon announcing the topic, so stay tuned. And yeah, so if you have more questions, now is the time, and now is the chance to unmute yourself, and otherwise we move on to the end.
Sorry, so this is Damien again, Anoop.
Hey.
Okay, so it's a bit more of an open-ended question that I have. Have you ever been in a position where you had to expand on the billing for a different service that the company was willing to offer? So as a really crazy example, I guess, maybe if Netflix started offering, another sort of feature, but that pricing, just the way they price and the way they bill doesn't gel with its initial subscription model. Like, have you been in a position where you had to reconcile the two of those things and make it work somehow for the customer's POV point of view to have the invoice kind of nicely laid out?
Yeah, absolutely. So take the example of Booking.com. Booking.com historically has been an accommodation service provider, and we had a pretty straightforward billing mechanism. That there was a set a commission percentage which we have to get from all our partners, look at all the bookings over a period of 1 month, generate the invoice, and that's it. But when when Booking.com started venturing out in different business models, one of them was attractions. Attractions was like a like a platform wherein you have a different like zoos or museums or there, and anybody can go and book their tickets on it. So when the company started attractions, it was a huge challenge for us, because the billing platform which was there, it was only catered for the accommodation business. The commission percentages was different. The tax treatment of that service, attraction service versus accommodation, was completely different. So that was the time when we started thinking about building a product agnostic billing platform, and so there was time when we ran two systems at once, as in one for just for accommodation and the other one which was for attractions. And then all the new products which we were creating, we were onboarding into the new platform. And then there was also a time when we were doing half the billing on the new platform for accommodation business and half on the old. So it was quite challenging, considering if you have to run two parallel systems. But yeah, it was a great learning experience, and also unique challenges.
Just a quick follow-up, but was that also the time when you were going from a monolith into a microservice architecture? Was that one of the things?
That is correct. As in, because we know that as in the overall company's priority was changing. They wanted to launch new products other than accommodation, or new product and services on top of accommodation, and the billing platform which we had, it wasn't ready to cater for that, and so that was the overall long-term strategy. That's how we move from monolith to microservices.
Okay, and so last question for me, really sorry, because this is a good topic. When at this point, given that, so I guess for Booking.com, when they had so many different teams, I guess product teams probably handling like attractions, handling accommodation, was each individual team responsible for its own aspect of billing, or was it all flowed up into a large horizontal rather, that sort of straddled everybody? Was that how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great question, Damon. And that's so if you leave billing to individual products, everybody's going to create their own. Either they're going to buy or they will spin off new services just to build their own. So at Booking.com, it was very clear that there was one billing service team which basically worked with all the products across Booking.com and provided them the ability to create invoices. So for me personally, as a product manager for billing, it was a great learning experience, because I got to meet all the product managers working on different problems, and everybody has new ideas how they wanted to scale. And when it comes to scaling, then how are you going to build it? That question came in, and that's how when we started building the microservices platform, we already had a lot of use cases in mind, and in that way we had kind of a head start on how do we want to build it and what would be the future look like for the billing service.
All right, cool. Thank you very much for your
Awesome.
Thank you very much for your answers and your time.
Thank you for great questions, Damon.
Feel free to connect with Anoop. Yeah, we will be sharing the recording, and on the last recording, you will find his LinkedIn link. So just feel free to reach out and then keep the conversation going. This has been very, very interesting and very difficult to moderate because I feel so far away from the topic. So that was my challenge, with full honesty. But yeah, I'm very happy, and thank you very much for all of you being so engaged and asking all these very, very interesting questions and then having the conversations. So yeah, with this, I don't have anything else to add. Anoop, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, and yeah, we'll meet again.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm wishing you a great rest of the day, depending where you are located, and we stay in touch. Hope to stay in touch and see you next week again. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.